And I pointed out that for what it had done, what the religion of Islam had done for those people over there, despite their complexion differences, that it would probably do America well to study the religion of Islam, and perhaps it could drive some of the racism from this society as it has driven racism from the Muslim society.
Prophet ﷺ passed by two graves. وَقَالُ يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي قُبُورِهِمَا, and he said these people are tortured in their graves. And then he went on, one because he كان يمشي بالنميمة, one would carry tales between people. كان ما يستهزئ من بوله ما كان يستهزئ من بوله. The second didn't protect themselves from the splattering of his urine, so his garments were soiled and his prayer was unacceptable. And someone, when I was in the presence of some Muslims who didn't have the best adab with the Prophet ﷺ, and a hadith was related, and one of them said very flippantly, you're trying to tell me Allah sent someone to hell for a few drops of urine? And so I told him, I said, no, not at all. He sent them to hell because he didn't even try to protect himself from a few drops of urine. And actions are based on the intention. He had no intention to even try to protect himself. Allah give us tawfiq. And in any case, at the end, he took a palm strand and he split it in half, and he put half on each of the two graves. And then they were asked about it. فَقَالَ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يُخَفِّفَانِ عَنْهُمَا مَا لَمْ يَيْبَسَا, that until they dry out, as long as they're living, they will lessen the punishment for these two people. And so someone who didn't carry those sins, they're a source of elevation for them, as long as they don't dry out. And so that's Sahih Bukhari, not from the Sunnah of the Goofy Sufis. That's in Sahih Bukhari. May Allah give us tawfiq and patience. Then we said intercession with the deeds of Malcolm and his wife. We know the hadith also, muttafaqun alayh, where the three people in the cave and the rock blocked the entrance, and then they made intercession. One said his parents, he would always give them warm milk before they went to sleep. One day they fell asleep early, and then he would give his young children their milk. And so his parents fell asleep early. The kids are screaming for their milk, but he wouldn't serve them until his parents woke up and they served them. He served them. He said, if I did that for your sake, help us get out of this cave. And the rock rolled back a little. And another, he said he had a cousin. She was the most beautiful person, most beloved to him. And he gave her a bag of gold for her to make herself available to him. And just when he was getting to violate her, she said, fear Allah, taqillah. And he pulled back and left her the gold and ran away. And he said, if I did that, Ya Allah, for your sake, get us out of this mess. And the rock rolled back a little more. Then the third one, he said, you're probably all familiar with the hadith. He hired a worker, a day worker, and he left. He worked his day and he left without taking his wages. He invested his wages. It grew into a whole valley of livestock. The man came back one day and he said, give me my wage. And he said, all this valley of livestock is yours. The man said, don't mock me. He said, no, I've invested your money. It's all yours. He said, he took it all. He didn't leave me a single head. He didn't leave me a single goat, sheep, anything. If I did that for your sake, Ya Allah, get us out in the rock rolled back, and they left. The point is, they all interceded with Allah through their righteous deeds. So we intercede and ask Allah SWT that He blesses Malcolm and blesses his wife, and that He spreads His mercy to them in their grave. And we ask whatever you want to ask and intercede with their deeds. And there's precedent, as we said, for that. There are other controversial forms of intercession. We're not here for that purpose. I think the best thing we could start with, maybe finish with, is what Hafiz Ibad recited, ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. Don't say concerning those who have been killed in the way of Allah. And Malcolm was killed in the way of Allah. So it's from our deen to work. Number one, he had started the Muslim Mosque Incorporated. He brought Sheikh Hassan from the Sudan to help educate the people. He was working very diligently to help to spread a proper understanding of Islam in this life. And so a lot of people didn't like that. You know, to work for the downtrodden, the oppressed all over the world. These are people Malcolm was raising his voice for. And particularly in general, all over the world. Traveling throughout the African continent, the Middle East, meeting with world leaders to help to create a movement to lighten the burden for people. And that comes at a price. But that's part of our religion. And people being killed, fi sabilillah, all of us are asked to make that sacrifice. Our sacrifices, we are asked to sacrifice. That's part of our religion. So this kind of Hakuna Matata Islam and, you know, that's not our religion. Our religion asks us to sacrifice. It asks us to sacrifice our money. And so we get the next verse, in fact. So to finish this verse, don't say they're dead. They live through their words. They live through their deeds. They live through their example. They live in their spirits, live in their grave. Now Malcolm can hear us. His spirit can hear us. And when we bury, and that when the ground is just like this, maybe a little mound, it hasn't settled yet. And before we leave, Ya Fulan, who is your Lord? Man Rabbuka, Ma Dinuka, Man Nabiyuka, Wa Rasuluk. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? Qul, say, Islamu dini, al-Islamu dini. Islam is my deen. muhammadﷺ, Nabi wa Rasuli. Muhammad is my prophet and messenger. Wallahu Rabbi, Allah is my Lord. And so we asking them, they're responding. The day of Badr, when the Prophet ﷺ threw the mushrikeen in the well and he's asking, is the promise of Ya Fulan, is the promise of your Lord true? And Omar is, Ya Fulan, so and so, is the promise of your Lord true? And Omar is hearing this saying, wow, they're dead, Ya Rasul. They can hear as well as you can, they're just incapable of answering. And so don't say that those who are killed in the way of Allah are dead. Or more relevant, we make them live on. Now there's a lot of controversy. Who killed Malcolm X? So let's ask a different question. Who's going to keep Malcolm X alive? وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ. But they live through us. And they live through us embodying their legacy. They live through us representing what they represented. They live through us carrying on their work. You know, why are there living madhabs? And then there are madhabs that have died in terms of historical legal schools of Jewish schools. They say Imam Layth bin Sa'd, who was based in Egypt, was more learned than Imam Malik, but his students failed him. His students allowed his legacy of scholarship to die. And the students of Malik and Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmed and Imam Shafi'i didn't. And so these great giants, they live on through us, or we are the ones who killed them. So if you're trying to ask who killed Malcolm X, ask yourself. I ask myself, what are we doing to keep them alive? What are we doing to keep their legacy alive? What are we doing to keep what they represented in the world alive? What are we doing to continue the work that they started? So the question comes back to us. And so if we want to obsess on something, that's what we should obsess on. Allah give us tawfiq. Rather they are alive. but you perceive it not. Look at this. Allahu Akbar. Malcolm's alive in our hearts. That's why we're here. African descent people, Asian descent people, European descent people, Southeast Asia, maybe Chinese. Raise your hand. But look, Japanese. Why are we here? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Because what was represented by Malcolm and by Dr. Betty is alive in our hearts. And because it's alive in our hearts, it brought us here today. Allah give us, and of course there are many others who probably would like to be there, couldn't make it, but we are here, and we're here because Malcolm X, Dr. Betty Shabazz are alive in our hearts. بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. Rather, they are alive, but you perceive it not. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And so Allah says here emphatically. So the grammarians say when you have lam al-qasam, wala, and nun al-tawqeed, at the end of the word, this lam is lam al-qasam. I gave you the answer. Oh wait, I can't quiz you. But with taqdir, wallahi, lanabluwannakum. I swear by Allah, surely we're going to test you. We're going to be tested. Be shay'in min al-khawf. So we're not going to be overwhelmed. Be shay'in. So as we said, not all of us are asked to give our lives. Not all of us are asked, Abu Bakr, come with all our wealth. Umar radiallahu anhum, come with half our wealth. But we're going to be tested. لَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, with fear. So there are some frightening moments we experience. You have the uptick in anti-Muslim sentiment and violence. During these election cycles, some people will be afraid. A lot of us, we don't live in areas where you're out in the country and all of your neighbors have Trump signs and have these sovereign state flags flying, but some Muslims live in those areas, and I'm sure they get a little apprehensive. Wish they would have moved to Brooklyn. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, but not overwhelmed. وَالْجُوعَ, and hunger. Some Muslims are starving. Most Muslims are well fed. In Muslim countries, you go, the great cuisines, they're all Muslim. The Turkish, Persian, the Malay, they're all, the Moroccan, they're all Muslim. The Syrian, all those kibbehs and kebabs and, they're all Muslim. And Muslims are eating well. But we do have the areas where there's some starvation, but the whole ummah is not experiencing it. Probably no one in this country is experiencing it. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. As we said, some people or their wealth, but we have to sacrifice our wealth. We have a lot of potential in this country. But to realize that potential, we have to make sacrifices. We have to start making far greater sacrifices than we're accustomed to. And the primary one is our wealth. And this has always been the case. Ibn Qayyim Jawziyah says, usually in the Quran, the jihad with the wealth is mentioned before the jihad with the lives. هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم. So usually the struggle with the wealth is mentioned before the struggle with the lives. Because the struggle with the lives it comes and goes. And many people never experience that struggle directly. But the struggle with the wealth is always there. The struggle with the wealth is always there. And so we should be willing to engage that struggle. The causes to spend for are probably endless. And again, not be shay. We're not asked to be Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, bring everything. But we should make sure we're spending something to help good causes, good Islamic causes that we believe in. and to help those who are less fortunate than ourselves. You see a lot of local people are less fortunate than ourselves. Maybe not in our neighborhoods, but there are poor Muslims. There are immigrant populations of Muslims. There are indigenous Muslims who are struggling. There's a lot we can do. And وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ وَأَنفُسُ وَثَمَرَاتٍ and fruits of our fields, fruits of our effort. A lot of times we'll work hard for something and then it just doesn't materialize. And so the fruits of our labor didn't bear the fruits we might have anticipated. But we forge on. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Those who when they are afflicted with a calamity, they say, verily we belong to Allah and unto Him we all return. So Malcolm belongs to Allah. Malcolm returned to Allah. Dr. Betty belonged to Allah. Dr. Betty returned to Allah. All of us belong to Allah. And all of us are eventually returning to Allah. So the question is, what will our legacy be? What will we leave behind? What kind of efforts and sacrifices will we make during the time that Allah has given us? We know that Malcolm made the sacrifice he made. And we're reminded, if that situation calls for it, we don't hesitate. If our life was on the line for this deen, we don't hesitate to give it. So we're not talking about going out and murdering people and saying, oh, he's a martyrdom operation. Suicide and murder, both haram. A double opportunity to go to hell. But some people like Malcolm didn't have to, and we don't know how history, but if you read, for example, Jan Carew, Ghost in Our Blood, a neglected book on Malcolm that's very important. It's one of the few books that spends a substantial amount of time talking about Malcolm's family, his father and his mother, especially his mother, and the contributions they made to the Garvey movement, what kind of household. Malcolm didn't just parachute down from the sky with all of that consciousness. Malcolm was raised in a household of an educated mother and an educated father, an activist mother, an activist father. His father was an organizer in Marcus Garvey's movement. And there were Islamic overtures in that movement. Because Marcus Garvey's mentor, Dusay Muhammad, was a Muslim. Marcus was in England. And he became involved with Dusay Muhammad, who would then go on to Detroit and become instrumental in establishing a multi-ethnic unified community in Detroit, Michigan. Brought the Iraqi Shia and Sunnis together, the Lebanese Shia, Sunnis and Shia together. It brought the African Americans, Caucasian converts all together under the mentor of Marcus Garvey. And so Malcolm's father and his mother were very aware, astute, educated. His mother was a writer for Garvey's newspaper. That's the home Malcolm grew up in. And so Malcolm, when he's very young, what did he want to be? He didn't want to be a basketball player. If you do, that's fine. Just have plan B. He wanted to be a lawyer. Right? He wanted to be a lawyer until the teacher crushed his hopes. But that aspiration is a byproduct of the family and home that he grew up in. And so May we be inspired to be something and do something significant with this life. And as we encounter difficulties, you struggle, especially in ways that threaten the interest. Talking with Muhammad earlier, Mayor Muhammad, just about the implications. But those are people like Malcolm. Back to the point, Malcolm was invited to go to Africa, just chill out. And Malcolm stepped back, just lay low, let everything calm down, and then come back. And he said, no, I'm staying here. And he knew he was likely going to end up dying prematurely by staying here. But he understood something. He understood that the blood of the martyr nurtures the souls of future generations. And so some people, that's their calling. That's the calling of some people. Not everybody. But that's some people's calling. And so no matter what our calling is, we have to patiently endure the hardships and difficulties that might lay ahead of us. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Those who in calamity afflicts them, they say, verily we belong to Allah, and unto Him we're all returning. So we're all going back to Allah. We're all going back to Allah in a way and at a time that Allah determines. But it is inevitable. We are all going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way and at a time that Allah determines. Malcolm went out back. His return to Allah was ushered in. The end of his lifespan was characterized by meeting the assassin's bullet. He didn't plan that. He planned to build his organizations, to continue to motivate people, organize people. Someone like Khalid bin al-Walid, who was out on the battlefield and probably anticipated being martyred, fi sabilillah, on the battlefield, shaheed fil ma'rika. How did Khalid die? He died laying in his bed, with his body covered with wounds. But Allah didn't determine that that's how Khalid is going out. And so we're all going, one way or another, and probably not the way we anticipated. So Khalid probably anticipated going out a little differently than the way he actually did. Radiyallahu anhu. One is sahabati ajma'in. But that's the way it is. But however we go out, we should go out struggling. We should go out trying to do something for those less fortunate than ourselves, very intelligently, and not just emotional outbursts that might get us hasten our exit, but might not necessarily lead to something constructive and positive for the world. And so, أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة. And upon them are the blessings of their Lord and mercy. These are those who will have the mercy of Allah, the blessings and mercy of Allah. And these are the ones who are rightly guided. We pray that Allah blesses us to be rightly guided. We pray that that seed that Allah has placed in our hearts, to that seed of love for Malcolm X and what he represented, and the respect and honor that he's placed in our heart for his wife, Malik El-Shabazz, and her sacrifices and her struggles, raising 4 daughters. The last 2 twins were born after Malcolm's death, and just being the wife of an international figure who's traveling constantly, having to deal with the threats, because she's answering the phone a lot of times when those death threats are coming in. She's in the house when it's firebombed, along with Malcolm. He wasn't going through that alone, but she patiently persevered. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. So whatever we're dealing with, be it great or small in this world, may Allah bless us to deal with it patiently. Whatever efforts we're making, because working for the sake of Allah can be thankless, it can be frustrating. The results sometimes come after generations. Like this gathering would have been difficult in Malcolm's life. It would have been easy to get an all African American audience this size here, right? But to get this kind of multinational, multi-ethnic gathering would have been very difficult in Malcolm's life. But now it's easy. And these are part of the fruits of the seed that Malcolm X represented, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed in our hearts. So may those seeds be nourished and nurtured, and may they grow into great, great trees that provide a lot of shade and protection for people whose those trees' feet firmly rooted in the ground, but their branches reaching towards the heavens. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. نقرأ الفاتحة على نية الرحمة ونية الافتتاح. Allah continue to shower His mercy upon these two blessed individuals, that Allah elevates them. الفاتحة.